Don't feel great. There was a point when it came to the giddy-ups where I made a joke that certainly fell flat. I got way too invested this episode into Dawson's Creek. Thought you guys expected to do a long recap. It turns out you guys did not want as much detail as you did, especially about my favorite character, Pacey, and his exploits trying to get laid. Overall, I've been in the lab for the last 2 weeks, away from the pod, trying to cook some jokes up, and most of them fell flat. So I'm just bad performance from me today.
Here with the BAD News Clams right after their most recent podcast, and we have a few questions for two of the worst performers of the night. And Clamception here, I just want to get your take on the podcast itself.
Yeah, that's a good premise there, Pete. As you guys can see, we weren't the worst ones here, so we have a couple interviews coming in from the two that are the worst. So let's
it looks like they're coming in here right now.
It looks like they are on their way into the podcast booth. So here we go. Here they come. All right, so here comes Bjork. Not a great pod from Bjork, I will say. What about you, Pete? Oh, there goes Wims.
I would have to agree. Neither of these two performed at their highest level. We have a few questions for them just to kind of go over their performance and see, really their thoughts on their podcast. So my first question is actually for you, Bjork. Just walk me through it. How do you feel about your performance today?
Yeah, I certainly don't feel great. There was a point when it came to the giddy-ups where I made a joke that certainly fell flat. I got way too invested this episode into Dawson's Creek. Thought you guys expected to do a long recap. It turns out you guys did not want as much detail as you did, especially about my favorite character, Pacey, and his exploits trying to get laid. Overall, I've been in the lab for the last 2 weeks, away from the pod, trying to cook some jokes up, and most of them fell flat. So I'm just bad performance from me today. Hope to do better going forward.
All right, so that was Bjork. Probably won't have him on for a long time because of his performance. But, Wayne, since you are a recurring guest, I guess, maybe the host, who knows, from your performance tonight, where do you go from here?
Honestly, I'm just on to...
Speaking to the mic, please.
Honestly, I'm just on to the next episode. I don't focus on the bad. I focus on the good. I feel like I could have made a better performance out there overall.
Wait. Why do you not focus on the bad? You are the BAD News Clams. Please explain.
I don't focus on my issues. I like to focus on the general issues within the group, and I want to perform better going forward.
Well, that kind of goes into our next question here on your total team's performance. So, two of the hosts of the podcast did perform well, and you two are up here right now after a devastating loss. So we'd like to just hear do you feel like you have let down the team as a whole?
I certainly would say that I have. Like I said, I've been away for a couple of weeks. People really think, people would have probably expected me to come back with a little bit better content, some better things to say. I know, Pete getting a little sick during the middle of the game. People expected me to step up in that situation, and I just didn't. While Pete was kind of puking his brains out, people expected more of me then, and I just couldn't pull through.
What do you think you can do?
No. On that last question, obviously I want all of us to perform well, and sometimes we're not going to be there. And sometimes it's on our shoulders to step up and perform better, especially when someone like Patrick isn't there for the podcast. So I don't really appreciate this question when you're coming at us like that.
It's my turn to question. I don't appreciate you coming at my colleague like that. You're really turning your bad performance onto us, who were the best performers in the podcast. So I really don't appreciate that. I'm going to hand it off to Pete just to let him defend himself.
As a teammate myself, I did go out for an extended period of time, but I came back. I knew that the team needed me, and I performed. And I can't say the same for yourself. So,
what's the question?
Yeah, you guys are asking the questions.
All right, let's just let the record show Pete took himself out of the game for the better of the team. So he didn't want to, but he had to. Better for the team, So here I am. I don't know who it's directed at, but do you even want to make changes going forward?
Honestly, no. I think this might be my last podcast ever. I think everyone got a little too drunk tonight. Pepper started flaring. I really don't like you guys anymore, honestly. So I think that it'd probably be better if I just take some time away from the podcast, reevaluate what I can contribute to this team, and going forward, we'll see what can happen. But I think it might be time for me to step away for a while.
Anything to add to that, James?
I feel like overall, as a collective, we need to come together. I don't want to see Bjork step away from the game. I know he's great at what he does. I think he just maybe needs to get his mindset better for the next episode, and we'll be back better than ever.
So, if you plan to come back better than ever and take over some of these rival podcasts that are out there, there's the Barstool podcast and amongst many others. Are you worried about these other podcasts?
No. I'm not worried about any other group or any other podcast, let alone any other person stepping on our game. We are the best that there ever is. We have our bad moments at times, but our bad moments outshine their good moments any day of the week.
As a person of this podcast, I can also agree with that. That's a great answer. But what are your plans moving forward? Like, how are we going to take the pod to the next level after this piss poor performance?
My plans moving forward are to just prepare better, come to the Clam's Nest with better material, and just try and help the overall group perform as a whole better together, because it's not about me, it's not about Bjork, it's not about Pete, it's not about Mac, it's about the BAD News Clams.
Well, that was a very inspiring answer, but my next follow-up question then, what drives you to do this? Like, what gets you up every morning to come here and make comedy and talk about the things that go on in the Clams' life? What gets you out of bed in the morning to come out and do this podcast?
Yeah, well, I think you guys know that I'm spending a lot of time down in a different part of the state. I'm really just kind of living my life alone out there, so it's really tough for me sometimes. So I think just having that desire to come back and shoot the breeze with my friends is really important. I think the people want to hear what we have to say. So just knowing that I can come back and contribute and have fun, that really drives me. Just the enjoyment of the game is really important.
See, a lot of people would, if we're in kindergarten class, that's fine, going to have fun. But what drives you to make yourself great in this podcast?
I want to be the best there ever is and ever will be. I want to be the type of guy when people thinks of podcasts, they think of gyms. I want to be the GOAT when it comes to podcasting, and I will be. Just give me time.
As interviewers here, we have to beg the question, you want to be the GOAT. You don't want the pod to be the GOAT. You, as James, want to be the GOAT.
You think of GOAT, you think of like Michael Jordan or LeBron. They still want to win championships. And on their team, those players are happy to win championships. They're happy to be successful, but they're happy to know that they're the greatest person ever on their team. I want to be the GOAT within our team.
A lot of great teams that have won championships, their star players never saw themselves that way. It's all about the team. It's all about the podcast. It's all about the basketball team.
And I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut you off right there. It is about the team, 100%. But for me individually, I want to be the best, and I'm sure everyone in the podcast could say the same thing. They want to be the best there ever is. But overall, we want to win championships. We want to be the best.
Understandable. So going from this point, after a piss-poor performance by both of you, lamentable performance, terrible performance, where do you see yourself going forward from here? How do you make adjustments? Where do you take the steps to make yourself a better podcaster and to really grow this brand as a whole?
Yeah, well, I think for me it's definitely going to be important to continue to hit the gym, continue to practice. Just see what I can do to reevaluate, some of the things I said on the podcast. It's going to be hard. I came in expecting to have a lot of things that would really hit and, strike chord with you guys and be funny or be good topics of discussion.
Sir, please speak into the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, I just want to continue to practice. I think practice makes perfect. That's something we all know. I work hard in the gym every day to be a better podcaster, and I'm always looking for different things to discuss, whether it be serious or funny. And I just need to go forward and continue putting my best effort outside of the podcast, so that when it does come to perform for me, I just really need to step up my game.
Well, that was the interview with the worst performers of the Bad News Clams. And Pete, do you have any takeaway from what we just heard from these two terrible performances?
Yeah, their intentions mean well, okay? But going forward, I know they both have talent and they do have good ideas and good funnies, but they need to step it up. So going forward, I do think they will have better performances. So we'll just have to see what next week holds.
I agree. It will be interesting. I think next week there will be no Blake, thank goodness, because of his piss poor performance. But we will still have a post-pod interview coming to you live, pre-recorded from the Clams Nest, a.k.a. my parents' basement, from the worst performers of the week. So this time, let's just sign off, shall we? Fair winds?
We're signing off. Fair winds. Host the Jolly Roger.
Hoist the